Hey there, book team. Noah. Everyone who reads it must converse. Today I'm going to do part 2 in an ongoing series on my ongoing series is the Buddhism from a Western Perspective on my channel. I'll link a playlist in the description box, but this is part 2 of a exploring the threefold Lotus Sutra. The White Lotus Sutra in this translation is called the Lotus Sutra of the Wonderful Law. And this is an amazing sutra that doesn't lend itself to a quick summation, right? So in my first video, I gave some historical and cultural context for the power that this sutra has and its influence on the world, on Buddhist practitioners and on all different cultures. And today I'm going to go a little bit more into what the sutra is about itself. I've heard this sutra called the drama of cosmic enlightenment, and that is definitely an apt description for what you actually find in the sutra itself, because it is a drama. And the subject matter of the drama is the cosmic process of enlightenment. It's not concerned with the enlightenment of this individual or that individual, strenuous individuals on a planet, say the Buddha, for example. It is concerned with the cosmic process of enlightenment that has been going on, is going on, and will continue to go on throughout all history and all future history. This is a primary part of reality, even though even in Buddhism, what it is there's the conditioned, which is the universe and reality as we know it, and everything that we experience in our day-to-day. Everything is conditioned, brought on by causes and conditions, and arises from causes and conditions, and is basically an evolution of to complexity and to diversity. And it's life flowering. It is a flowering process. There is also the unconditioned, and the unconditioned is enlightenment itself. So there is this kind of huge power that's in back and around and in front of and driving this whole thing that is completely transcendental, for lack of a better word. How can you describe it? What it's called is the unconditioned, and it's enlightenment energy. So in the Lotus Sutra, just to get right into it, we begin in an assembly. The Buddha's going to give a teaching, and there's nothing very unique about that with the sutra, of course, right? The sutra opens on Vulture Peak, which is an actual mountain, an actual huge rocky crag is what it is. Kind of like Stone Mountain here in Georgia, I guess. And the Buddha would go up on Vulture Peak, sometimes called Eagle Peak, and give teachings, and this was just a huge, prominent, place. He's up there with thousands and thousands and thousands of disciples, laymen, laywomen, monks, nuns, and just all different types of people. There is a huge assembly. We get the impression of many thousands of different people from all walks of life have come and are there in this assembly. The Buddha is in meditation, and he's quiet, and at some point a miraculous thing happens. And what happens is a beam of light shines from between his eyebrows and illuminates the entire universe, not just our galaxy, but the entire reality, and shows different worlds and different beings. And in every single world, these people, the assembly, can see it lit up and illuminated by his by this light. And there are beings in various stages of practice doing pretty much what people are doing here on this earth, and growing and developing, and in different stages of that. And the assembly is perplexed, of course. What is the meaning of this? So it is said by Maitreya, who is a very wise and very advanced Bodhisattva, that he has seen this before. And what it means when a Buddha does this and illuminates the entire universe like this is that he's about to preach the White Lotus Sutra, the Lotus Sutra of the Wonderful Law. He's about to preach this sutra. And they're like, okay, well, let's hear it. Right? So they start talking, and at first it is a call to, well, what is it that what does it mean? And the Buddha says, well, I can't say anything, because only a Buddha with another Buddha can understand this. This is the unconditioned. This is enlightenment itself, enlightenment energy itself. Only a Buddha with another Buddha can understand. So there's no reason for me to talk. There's no reason for me to say this, because it will perplex people more than it will help them on their path. Well, he's asked 3 times, and there's the magic number, and he consents to teach. And the first teaching that comes through that is explicitly laid out is that all the teachings up until this point in the Buddha's life, and this is a sutra that was given in the later part of the life of the Buddha. So this sutra says very explicitly that all the teachings that have come before on mind states and on how to progress in the spiritual path are provisionary. They are introductory, and they are not, and what it is that Nirvana, which is the main goal of Buddhist practice up until that point, is not the final goal. That Nirvana is not the final goal. And Nirvana is a state of peace and of non-function. That's what it means. And Nirvana was the goal. Well, what is the goal in Buddhism? Before that is to stop your karma, is to to break the chains of karma, so that you're not having to be stuck in the cycle of birth and rebirth over and over. And that was the whole point, is for the individual to gain control over their mind and personality and things like this, and basically eradication of negative aspects of the human being themselves, to break these chains of karma and to break free of the cycle of rebirth. And he says that that is not the final goal. And 5,000 monks and nuns and laymen and laywomen, 5,000 of them get up and walk out at that point. They can't take this revelation. They think that maybe maybe there's something wrong, and they have actually achieved the goal, and they don't want to hear any of it, so they get up and walk out. And after that, the Buddha says explicitly, well, now the assembly is quite pure and quite ready for this teaching, and says that not only does the being need to eradicate negative personality aspects and vices of mind, vices of body, and all this kind of thing, and purify themselves in a way through meditation and gain this kind of level, what is termed nirvana. But also there is the further goal of gaining positive spiritual illumination. Gaining positive spiritual illumination to the point where you then become a Buddha. And so it is the attainment of Buddhahood itself, becoming a Buddha. And of course, nobody really understands what he's talking about, right? It takes forever to become a Buddha. The Buddha himself became the Buddha only after, thousands and thousands and millions of years, of lifetimes, actually, of spiritual practice. So, they're perplexed, to say the least. And so, the Buddha gives a parable and says, through parables and through a story, intelligent people come to understanding. Through a story, things that are hard to understand through a dry, philosophical type manner. Through a story, things can be made clear in a more accessible way. And he tells the story of the burning house. That's the first parable that we come up on, is the parable of the burning house. And it is a story of a huge mansion. The house is burning. And the house represents the earth, represents existence. And the children that are in the house is all of humanity. More notably, the Buddha's disciples. They're there. They're there. He's speaking to them. And so they are in the house running around playing and don't even know what fire is. They don't know what it means when the elder is outside the house, the elder of the home, the father figure, who is the Buddha, in the parable, is saying, come out, you'll be burned, the house is on fire, you're going to die. They don't know what any of these things mean. They don't know what fire is. They don't know what death means. They don't know what any of this stuff is. So they just keep playing. And they barely play anything. So what happens is the Buddha, or the elder of the house, has a recourse to an expedient. So this is a fancy way of saying there's a white lie, right? He says, come on out, all the children, come on out, and I have all kinds of vehicles, carts for you. Some are pulled by deer, some are pulled by bullocks, oxen, and some are pulled by other animals. And they're, all these different types of beautiful carts, with different jewels and parasols and, all kinds of things on them. Come on out and get your reward. Come on out and get what I've given to you, what I've bought for you. And they come running out, rushing out, all pushing against each other to get out, right? And the Buddha then, having saved all the children from the burning house, gives them all the most glorious cart, vehicle, pulled by bullocks that they could ever imagine. Everyone is very happy. Everyone is saved. Everyone is cool. And what this is saying is that what the parable is teaching is that there is only one truth, and that truth is more glorious and more amazing than we could ever imagine, than most anybody can ever wrap their head around. But that is the truth, and that is what it is. So how do you teach people? How do you teach human beings? Well, you teach them by giving them what they can understand, by offering them what they can understand, and then giving them a means to progress. Once they progress, then you can lead them a little further. Once they progress, you can lead them further and further. Ultimately, the goal, ultimately, the reward, ultimately, what we're after is the most glorious and highest goal that we could ever conceive of, which is Buddhahood itself. So, there it is. In response to this, 4 of the disciples tell their own story. And it is basically, I've heard it called the myth of the return journey. What it is a wonderful illustration of the prodigal son. If, I'm sure people are aware, the story of the prodigal son in the Bible. And that is the myth of the return journey. And that story is very clear for us. And it is illustrating the truth that, so these are the disciples now saying this story to the Buddha, and they illustrate that loss and inadequacy are a lie, that the son that has left this father's house and comes back is immediately rewarded with the entire kingdom and the entire wealth of his father. It was always his. The lack that he had to endure was a lie, was totally and completely false and a lie, and he actually had all of this at his disposal all the time, and it's a glorious revelation. And so the disciples, give voice to their understanding that Nirvana is a halfway house, at best. The Buddha tells another parable called the parable of the herbs, and it is a very short just illustration, and it basically goes like this. There's a rain cloud that spreads over the whole earth, and the rain showers down equally on everything. But there are all different manner of plants and trees and shrubs and flowers and fruit and vines and all kinds of growing things, and they receive the rain by their own nature. Their own capacity to receive the rain is due to their own nature. And so the rain is the Dharma, is the teachings, is the teaching of spiritual progression. And the plants and all the different types of plants and that have all these different natures and capacities for receiving the teachings, they are all human beings. And the rain cloud is the Buddha. And so there's that beautiful parable of the herbs. And then also the Buddha goes into a parable called the parable of the magic city. It is the story of a teacher who is taking a group through very harsh terrain, very dangerous terrain, and this group gets totally exhausted after a long time of going at it, and says, okay, this is too much, we got to turn back. Let's turn back. Let's go back to where we were. This is too much, too hard. And by magical means, the guide, who is the Buddha in the story, and all the ones he's leading are his disciples and human beings, all human beings basically. He creates a city, a magic city where there is rest and repose, and there is peace for them to recharge, and for them to get their self together and get their bearings, and before they move on again, right? Before they move on to the actual goal, which is a real splendor of a city. And so in that parable, the actual goal is Buddhahood itself. But the magic city that the guide, who is the Buddha, creates is Nirvana. And so at that point, all of the disciples and all of the humans in the assembly start to feel the effect of all this, and they start to give voice to their understanding that they've always been on this path. This is the way that it is, and that what they thought of as the goal is actually just a rest stop, at best. And their goal is even more glorious than they ever really understood that they were even capable of. Because if Buddhahood is the goal, then there is something more greater than just having a peace and non-function and being out of the cycle of birth and death and just being in a rest, and the Buddhahood is a goal of helping all of humanity and giving and receiving love from everybody, and everybody giving and receiving love in turn from you, and everybody having this kind of communion. And it's very beautiful. So all these disciples start to give a vow, and it's a vow of to move towards that goal, to become a bodhisattva, to become a being called a bodhisattva, which is an enlightenment being, a being bent on enlightenment, not just for themselves, but bent on enlightenment for all beings, to help all beings become enlightened, and to not go into a state of non-function, into, the to eternity, basically, to not go into that until all beings can go into that with them. And they make that kind of vow. And when that kind of vow, the teaching here, what it comes down to is that the attainment of a goal is implicit in the vow. When a being with full heart and full, devotion makes a vow to do something or to, not do something, the attainment of that is implicit in that vow. Because if somebody really means it and really has with all their heart and being and with all their self desire to follow through with what they're saying, then they can't help but attain that. So when somebody makes the declaration and the vow to become a bodhisattva in the presence of a Buddha, that Buddha immediately predicts their future enlightenment. And now these future enlightenment predictions are thousands of lifetimes down the road. They are beyond long in the future. It is ridiculous of to think of how long it might be, hundreds of thousands of ages. And just to give you an idea of what these Buddha lands and what these kind of worlds that are hundreds of thousands, millions of years in the future, on worlds, our world, and on different worlds, are described as. We'll say this is Maha-Kasypa. At that time, the World Honored One, after pronouncing this verse, addressed the great assembly, uttering words like these: "This my disciple Maha-Kasyapa in the world to come shall do homage to 300 myriad kotis of world-honored Buddhas, serving, revering, honoring, and extolling them, and widely proclaiming the infinite great law of all the Buddhas. In his final bodily state, he will become a Buddha, whose name will be called Radiance Tathagata. Worshipful, all-wise, perfectly enlightened in conduct, well-departed, understander of the world, peerless leader, controller, teacher of the gods and men, Buddha, world-honored one, whose domain is named Radiant Virtue, and whose kalpa is named Great Magnificence. The lifetime of that Buddha will be 12 minor kalpas. The righteous law will abide in this world for 20 minor kalpas, and the counterfeit law will also abide for 20 minor kalpas. His domain will be beautiful, devoid of dirt, potsherds, thorns, and unclean odor. Its land will be level and straight with no uneven places, neither pitfalls nor mounds. Its ground is of lapis lazuli, lined with jeweled trees, golden cords to bound the ways, strewn with precious flowers, and purity reigning everywhere. In that domain, the bodhisattvas will be infinite thousands of kotis, with shravakas, disciples, numberless. No illusion will be there, no Mara deeds will be there, and though there are Mara and Mara's people, they will also protect the Buddha law." So there is a world system described, and there are hundreds, and some, completely glorious and amazing, that we can barely wrap our heads around, what it would be like to see a city, like to see a world in that state and things like that. So I hope you enjoyed this book too, and I'll leave you with one more. So Pruna actually is a disciple who is predicted to enlightenment that is in our world. His world is the earth, the Saha world. And that world, it is millions of years in the future. You know what I mean? Like it is beyond far in the future. So that Buddha will make his Buddha land of a 3,000 greatfold universe, as many as the sands of the Ganges, with the 7 precious stones for its earth, its ground level as the palm of the hand, free from hills and valleys, runnels and ditches, and in the midst filled with terraces of the precious 7. The palaces of its gods will be situated nearby in the sky, where men and gods will meet and behold each other. There will be no evil ways, and there will be only one gender. For all living beings will be transformed, and they will have no carnal passion. They will attain to the great transcendent powers. Their bodies will emit rays of light. They will fly anywhere they want at will. Their will and memory will be firm, and they will be zealous and wise, all golden-hued and adorned with 32 signs. All the beings in his domain will always have 2 articles of food, one the food of joy in the law, and other the food of gladness in meditation. There will be a host of infinite and thousands and myriads of kotis of naturas of bodhisattvas who have attained the great transcendent faculties and 4 degrees of unhindered wisdom, who have excellent ability in instructing all types of beings. The disciples cannot be told by counting and calculation, and all will attain perfection in the 6 transcendent faculties, the 3 clear views, and 8 emancipations. The domain of that Buddha will be adorned and perfected with such boundless excellencies as these. The Kalpa will be named Jewel Radiance, and his domain will be named Excellent Purity. The lifetime of that Buddha will be infinite kalpas. The law will remain for very, very long. After the extinction of that Buddha, stupas of the precious 7 will be erected throughout all that domain. So, unbelievable. So, there we've gone through the first major part of the White Lotus Sutra, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thank you very much, BookTube. Any ideas, leave me a comment down below. Bye-bye.